Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Deck Tech. Today we have something pretty sweet on our hands, and I'm also joined by Basoon Buffoon.
Hi
How are
there.
you doing?
I'm living the dream, man. I'm on Leyline's YouTube channel.
Yeah, we are Yetiing it up. So this is a list that evolved in three forms. The original was from Isomorphic, then onto Paradox, and then onto our list. And you kind of took Paradox's list, adjusted some a few things, and then played it into the ETS and also on some ranked. We both did.
Yeah, and actually, I memed myself down into the dredges of like 1600 masters, and
Yeah.
it clawed my way all the way back up into the 500s with this list.
Yeah, I was getting pretty bored the last couple weeks of Eternal in general, but this deck definitely kind of spruced things up and made it a little bit more fun. So let's just kind of get into the deck. Eileen's Intervention is a sweet card, has lots of play, especially nowadays with a bunch of the flying units. And then since we're running Yetis, we get to pump their butts up and we get to, negate some spells. How's this been for you, just unranked and also in the ETS?
It's pretty imperative with the prevalence of Hailstorm, the aggro killer,
Mm-hmm.
as everyone knows it to be. That card in specific makes it a lot more resilient to Hailstorm, and you use it to play around things like Lightning Storm. Actually, it plays around Hailstorm with two lines of its text
Yep.
because it buffs the health and it just negates 3-cost spells outright. It's one of the more important cards in the deck. I did cut down to 3 from 4 that Paradox's list was running, just because um, you kind of like two in access to 2 of them seem to be the sweet spot.
Yeah. It's definitely pretty neat. My last ranked game, I actually had all three in hand at one point, which was interesting. I didn't win that game, but that's a different story. Permafrost, it's Permafrost, not much really to talk about there. Snowcrust Yeti, Aegis 2-1. It's the best one drop Yeti. Not much really to talk about besides it just being a Yeti that's cheap. Same with Torch. These first couple cards, even Champion of Fury, they're all auto includes in most of these Skycrag decks anyway. It's once we get behind that, after Champion of Fury is when it gets interesting.
I
So
will say, if you just like drew like a big black line right under Champion of Fury, sometimes just drawing that like quarter of your deck is like enough. You just
yep,
win games just because Champion of Fury is one of the best cards in the game.
yeah,
Um,
pretty much.
and that's like what the Skycrag start is like looking for. Sometimes you're like really pumped to be able to drop a Vadius turn 3, but for the most part, like that's your standard Skycrag start.
Yep. And then this is when things get interesting. So Fearless Yeti is certainly interesting. The ability to scout has been pretty important. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the best things about this deck is like the filtering and the choices you get to make as far as what goes in your hand and what leaves the top of your deck.
Yeah, and also it has Overwhelm, so you get to push through some damage, especially when we get to Wump. We're pushing through even more. Cinder Yeti is awesome. I think the other list we're running just three, and we're up to four.
Yeah, that's actually a Kang addition to the deck.
Yes.
He looked at the deck and said, Cinder Yeti is one of the best cards in the game. You have to run 4,
Yep. Again,
or I'm quitting.
it has Overwhelm, so pushing through more damage. Warp, we have to basically draw it for free. And then again, we're pushing through more damage when we get to exhaust the enemy unit. This deck just kind of, no pun intended, slash pun intended, we're looking to snowball, basically.
You intended. Don't lie to the good people watching the Leyline's YouTube channel. You meant that. You
Yeah,
intended that.
slightly. And then we'll get to the party starter, good old Wump himself. Wump's sweet. When I was first building Skycrag, I wanted to build it more of a Yeti centric, just because Wump's just cool. A unit that pumps up other units and also gets to throw damage at other things is just great. Uh, the synergy in this deck is just it all being the same unit type, all these little interactions, the overwhelm, getting your things pumped up, and then Wump's interaction with the Thudrock is also super sweet. So when Thudrock comes in, just pings. If you have Wump out, you get to create that snowman right away. It's definitely super sweet.
Those Wump pings are so way overlooked and really important. Just like small little points of damage. It pops face ages for the obliterates we're going to talk about later.
Yep.
If you have multiple Wumps out, just playing like playing one Yeti turns into like a little baby torch.
Mm-hmm.
The ping from Thudrock does give you a big ol' snowman friend, which is pretty fun.
Yep, and we skipped over Yeti Furflinger, which is a slight difference than the original Isomorphics, right? That's he was running the 3-cost. I think it's a 3. What's that unit again?
Oh man, what is that guy's name? The 1/5.
Yeah.
Pock, that's his name.
Yeah.
The original Isomorphic list ran that to make snowballs, and then ran that like 5/3 spell damage guy to actually buff Yeti attack and the snowball damage. And so since Paradox's list cut the spell damage one, the snowballs got a lot worse, and so that's where Yeti Furflinger comes in.
Yeah, and it's a 3/4 body for 3, which isn't bad. Summon Nightfall, so we have to draw again. We're an aggressive deck, so yeah, we're giving them another card, but the Nightfall ping damage, except with the Wump damage, all this other little ping damage. Then the ultimate is actually pretty sweet because there's annoying cards like Makto and Tavrod and Titan that are just like, oh, that's just a squirrel now instead, which can be pretty important.
Yeah, that's super duper important for pushing lethal through those big endurance units, which have always been Skycrag's biggest weakness.
Yep. And then we'll get to the 4 Obliterate. Now, in the other lists, they were on 2 Obliterate and 2 Feast Caller, I believe, or maybe 3, depending on some of the numbers. You talked to me about this when we were first building the deck and how you wanted to go up to 4. So if you wanted to tell all the viewers why you wanted to go up to 4.
Obliterate, just so many games came down to with this deck. This deck, you're kind of sacrificing a little bit slower start on average from like your normal Skycrag aggro to like for that bigger bigger push later in the game that Skycrag aggro. If you haven't won the game by turn 6, you usually just have to concede, right?
Yep.
And so with this deck, once you get to like turn 6, 7, 8, I found myself just looking at the top card of my deck, praying it was an Obliterate in almost every game. And with like you have so many ways to kind of one of the Obliterates. The reason why Obliterate has kind of fallen out of favor is because it's so easy to get face Aegis right now, right?
Yep.
But you have so many ways to kind of pop that with Wump, with torches, face Aegis becomes a lot less relevant, and Obliterate gets a lot better. So rather than just playing a 5/3 or a 4/3 that you have to kind of wait a turn to get value from, you would rather just kind of end the game right now.
Yep, and even the overwhelm from it to like remove a unit, and then also like carry over maybe 1 or 2 damage. Just all this little ping damage adds up with this deck. It's super important.
Yeah, absolutely. In ETS, I played against an Ikari blue deck, and the way I got lethal over like 3 turns was like a Wump to pop face Aegis plus 2 torches plus Obliterate the next turn.
Oh wow, that's a lot of burn.
Yeah, so so it really did. We kind of just ramped up the Burny aspect of the deck, and kind of made burn like an alternate win condition to like the Yeti Zoo plan.
Yep, so there's still enough like draw cards and scout and Inner Yeti pseudo drawing cards. So Feast Caller, it's that 4/3 body does kind of stink at times. So I think Obliterate's been pretty darn good for me on the ranked ladder. So I'm not complaining. And then good old Slope Sergeant. So
I consider this card to be the reason to play this deck.
Pretty much, it's super cool. I think the best is playing Wump, and then the next turn playing Thudrock, and then immediately playing Slope Sergeant at the same turn?
Yeah, you can play 9/8 worth of stats for free on turn 4 if you have a Wump out.
It's super sweet, and you get to draw cards from it. So then I think the deck maxes out at like 6 power, so you can hold a couple sigils or receipts or whatever in your hand, and then just discard those ones. Keep all the meat and potatoes in your hand. So don't just play out extra seats and whatnot just to do it. I mean, if it's grass, that's different, but this is definitely a deck where you want to hold some of the sigils so you can discard them.
Yeah, and that allows us that filtering feature from Slope Sergeant allows us to run the 28 power that we're running and still feel like an aggro deck.
Yep. Yeah, because we're not running any favors, any seeks. It's just flat out what it is. We have the crest. You have Fearless Yeti Scout. So there's like all this filtering and like little things that add up to just all these intricacies of the deck that just help kind of feed you. I've never felt flooded, and I think there was one time when we were streaming that we got a little screwed. I think you even said it like we should clip this. When people say like why you run 28 power, because we like got screwed for like 4 turns in a row or something. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, and I would blame. This is a different video, but I would blame Eternal's Mulligan mechanic more than I would blame this Mona Lisa of a deck.
Yeah.
For that drawing into 2 power.
Yeah.
But I think this is one of the decisions you have to make, just what to keep on top of your deck and what to keep in your hand is really skill testing, which is a lot of fun. I've learned a lot in 2 weeks of playing it, and this is I believe in my heart that this is the fabled Yeti deck that's been whispered about in the darkness.
Yes. Now, in the link in the description below, we'll have the 2 other decks we're kind of talking about. Now, Isomorphic's list originally was just playing off of Unstable Form. It seemed like he just wanted to get out, Slope Sergeant out cheaply, and then Unstable Form it to a 7-drop, 8-drop, and whatnot. But like to me, it seems just like gimmicky, and there's times where like you turn it into like nothing. It's too much RNG risk, really, to put into it. Where this is just straightforward. It's kind of what Paradox turned it into, and then we kind of took it from there and added the 4th Cinder Yeti, took out Feast Callers, added the Obliterates. I don't know if you feel the same way I do about Unstable Form. I just feel like it's just too cute in this sort of deck.
Isomorphic was doing something right because he was in top 10 Masters with his version of the deck earlier this month. I don't know where he is now. I thought it was kind of the way he explained it was like, yeah, you ramp out your 4/4, you play an Unstable Form on it, and you get maybe an Icaria on turn 4 or 5, which is pretty rad. But also, when we were talking about we had to get creative with our solutions to Titans and Tavrods, the biggest predators to this deck, and Unstable Form is like a half measure to deal with those, which is fine. I think this deck will be a little bit more consistent. I played probably 20 to 50 games of Isomorphic's list and Paradox's list. And this is really, I even hesitate to put my name on this version of the list. This is just a tuning of Paradox's version of Yetis.
Yeah, definitely. And now you played an ETS, and we have your sideboard up here. So you're in Backlash, 4 of, good against all those control decks, and, extra little bits of damage, extra little bit of getting rid of face Aegis with that damage.
Yeah. So the great debate is always between Backlash and Unseal.
Mm-hmm.
But the 2 damage was relevant often enough to where I thought Backlashes would be the way to go.
Oh, definitely. Then Rockslide in mirror matchups, any sort of the aggro decks, just super good.
Yeah, I played one set against Grenadins, and I boarded all of those in against Grenadins as well.
Yep.
Just like any aggro deck, it's gonna lose to faster aggro decks.
Yep. Polymorph, a way to deal with those annoying cards that we were talking about earlier, like Tabrod and all that. All the fun stuff, as we mostly say. And Runecrawler Yeti, another Yeti that does some fun stuff. Did you board this in at all? I assumed against Arcaria Blue you probably did.
I did board it in against Ikaria Blue in that set. Um, my only regret with Runecrawler Yeti is I still have not gotten to play it with a Wump out on the field yet, so I don't know if it gets the attack buff from the Wump ping. I think it might, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So if anybody has experience with that interaction, I think ping effects do work with the word hit in text. So I think Runecrawler Yeti will get an extra point of attack if you play it with a Wump on the field.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. And then Yeti Pulse. You bring this in against other aggro decks as well to just, ping. Or what are you bringing this in against?
I brought it in when I played against Grenadins. I brought it in against any deck that's running Runehammer. You bring it in against.
Yep.
And anytime that the game's gonna go long enough to make the, if I played against just like a super slow deck, I would probably board out the 1-drop Yeti and put in Yeti Pulse just for the ultimate.
Yes. Is there any card you wish you had in the sideboard, or you kind of feel pretty good about that sideboard?
Yeah, sometimes I think I was on the edge between Alpine Tracker and Yeti Pult. I think Alpine Tracker is maybe a better card on average to have, but it seemed the call of Yeti synergy was like too much for me not to bring the Yeti Pult.
Yeah, plus the ability to draw cards off it. You can bring it up in 2 different matchups where Alpine Tracker's kind of getting like a little bit more narrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, the deck's super fun. Not a super learning curve, but there's enough of a learning curve. And it definitely made me want to play Eternal, where, the week before I was kind of just like, oh, I'll just play my daily win with my Stone Scar deck, and then I'll shut the game off, and I'll watch TV.
Yeah, so the market for this deck, the target audience for this deck, are people who want to play fast games, but also very thoughtful games, very mindful games. Because if you autopilot with this deck, I miss a lot of damage if I just kind of zone out and I'm talking to my wife or something. So if you're looking for if you like playing aggro and you like having to think about your plays, maybe on a slightly higher level than A plus space, this is maybe an aggro deck for you to try.
Yes, definitely. So with that, I thank you for joining me. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Later, guys.